Why So Cold contains content that is graphic in nature. Listener discretion is advised. Why So Cold relies largely on police or news documents, eyewitness accounts, press conferences, and interviews. Every episode of Why So Cold is produced with respect to the victims, families, and communities involved.
From Watts Creative Studios, this is Why So Cold. On Saturday, June 6, 1993, an unimaginable tragedy occurred in the small town of Windsor, North Carolina. 6 employees of the local B-Lo grocery store were closing up the place for the day when an unknown man appeared with a gun and ordered them to the butcher room in the back. When the man left the store, 3 of the 6 employees were dead, 2 severely injured, and 1 completely unharmed. Still, despite half of the victims surviving the attack and giving a description of the person responsible, to this day, his identity remains a mystery. Windsor is a small, unassuming town with a population of 3,500 in Bertie County, North Carolina. Chartered in 1768, Windsor is also one of the oldest towns in the state, with rich agricultural history and houses close to 300 years old, lining King Street. The town can be a quite nice place to live if you're into farming, animals, nature, and simplicity. On the other hand, for younger people, Windsor is quite boring. Needless to say, in Windsor, everybody knows each other one way or another. As there are not really many places to go and not that many things to do, regional chain stores and local shops along West Granville Street have served as a social hub for the residents. In July 1990, a property at 406 West Granville Street was purchased by Virginia Beach-based Bonnie B-Lo Markets. Soon enough, the company opened a B-Lo grocery store at that location, which quickly became a meeting place for the local people. To them, going shopping was not just about getting groceries and heading back home, but also catching up with friends and other townspeople. You could say the aisles of the grocery store were used more to share news and rumors than many other places in Windsor. As it is often the case with smaller towns, in Windsor, crime is a rather rare occurrence. In 2020, there were only 38 reported incidents, of which 3 were violent crimes. Of course, the low crime rate is more than desired, but peace and quiet can also easily lull residents into a false sense of security. Still, nobody could have ever prepared for the threat that would soon send shockwaves through the whole town. There was a possible warning sign, though. 21 miles south of Windsor is another town called Beargrass. The community has a convenience store, Cherry's Cupboard, located just a few miles off of US 17. Similar to the B-Lo grocery store in Windsor, Cherry's Cupboard is a popular spot to hang around for people of Beargrass, especially because of the grill that serves hot food. The employees of the store rarely see an unfamiliar face, but that did happen on May 30th, 1993. That day started like any other day. Customers came in to grab supplies for Labor Day and eat fresh fried chicken. 2 employees were taking care of the store: the owner, Jerry Cherry, and 65-year-old widow, Audrey Leggett. After lunchtime, Jerry had some errands to run, so he left Audrey alone to run the store. She assisted a handful of clients, many coming in for gas, until the traffic dried up. Audrey enjoyed the quietness for a moment, but then the phone rang. The caller was Audrey's daughter, who needed her mom's help with a recipe. The two had a conversation for a few minutes before another customer entered the store. Audrey excused herself, only to be faced with a .22 caliber pistol pointed at her. Sometime later, another customer walked into the store, but there was nobody behind the counter. Not long after, Audrey's body was discovered in the cooler. She had been shot multiple times. When the police arrived at the scene, it soon became apparent that finding out who killed Audrey would be a difficult task. They found no evidence, no witnesses, In addition, the store did not have any surveillance cameras. Checkpoints were set up along the roads heading out of town, but they came back with nothing. To the people of Beargrass and everyone who heard about the horrible crime, it was difficult to understand how someone could walk into a store in broad daylight, shoot Audrey to death, and escape without anyone seeing them. Was this person a local or a complete stranger that stopped by Cherry's cupboard? And if the shooter was an outsider, would they strike again? Audrey's murder was never solved, and exactly a week later, another tragedy struck. On Sunday, June 6, 1993, business at Windsor's Below grocery store was slow but steady. The relaxed day allowed the employees, manager Grover Lee Cecil and Joyce Reason, to talk and joke with the patrons and enjoy the evening shift in the best way. As the traffic inside the store began to dry up, Grover and Joyce started their daily closing task. Meanwhile, a cleaning crew, including Johnny Raskins Jr., Sylvester Welch Jr., and brothers Jasper and Thomas Hardy, headed to the grocery store in a blue pickup truck from the town of Edenton, located 22 miles from Windsor. Their job that night was to clean, strip, and wax the floor of the Below. It was supposed to be a routine night for the four men that had been working together for 2 months. However, there was someone else who had business to do with the Below grocery store that evening, but he did not have good intentions. A man entered the store, but while other customers were going around the aisles picking up groceries, this person watched the employees. The stranger studied how many people were working that evening and what they were doing, careful not to draw attention to himself. Afterward, he retreated to a hiding spot to wait. Grover and Joyce were helping the remaining customers while getting everything ready for Monday. Around 6 p.m., the blue pickup truck backed up next to the front door. Johnny and his crew unloaded their supplies, and as the final customer left, Grover locked the doors, not knowing they had just locked everybody in with a monster. The stranger was still in his hiding spot inside the store. There was no need for a hurry. They would have the whole night. However, the intruder had one unexpected problem: the cleaning crew. The man checked his .45 caliber pistol, only 3 bullets. Nevertheless, around 6:15 p.m., he emerged from his hiding spot and pointed his gun at the cashier. The stranger, who had no mask on to hide his face, instructed Joyce to remain calm and summon the manager. As Grover then joined them, the man ordered both into the cash office. Then, pressing the gun into Grover's back, the man forced him to open the safe and place its contents, $3,000 in cash and money orders, in a canvas bag. Afterward, the stranger could have disappeared, but he did not. Instead, the man marched Grover and Joyce towards the back of the store, where the cleaning crew was still working, not aware of the situation. One by one, the stranger then forced each member of the cleaning crew to join others before leading the group of 6 people to the butcher room. On the way, the man told his hostages he was a former cop, fired by his department. In addition, he made an unsettling remark saying he has nothing to lose. In the back of the store, the stranger ordered the employees to use duct tape to bound each other before securing the last hostage himself. Then the man said something that immediately changed the mood amongst the 6. He said, "I do not want to have to kill anybody." Until that point, everybody had cooperated, believing if the man got what he wanted, the money from the safe, he would just go and leave them bound but unharmed. They posed no threat to him, and yet, the stranger was now stacking his hostages. At gunpoint, he had them position themselves into 3 stacks, 2 people in each. Grover is on the top of one stack, Joyce another, and Johnny the last. While everybody still tried to cling to hope that they were getting out of this situation alive, every second made it seem more and more unlikely. Then the gunman said, "I hope God forgives me for what I'm about to do." The attacker then fired the gun into the stacks until he ran out of bullets. Afterward, he separated the stacks and noticed that 2 of the captives were still uninjured: Jasper and Thomas Hardy. The 2 obviously remained as still as possible, hoping they would hear the footsteps of the man leaving the store. But unfortunately, the stranger returned with a butcher knife, asking the brothers if they were going to identify him to the police. Thomas answered, saying they would not. But that did not satisfy the attacker, who screamed, "I don't believe you." He then proceeded to cut Thomas's throat before stabbing with so much force that the handle of the knife broke. Then the man turned to Jasper and asked the question again, "Will you identify me?" To which Jasper replied, "No, man, I don't know you." For a moment, the stranger did not say a word, but then, for reasons unknown, he decided he had had enough. The man said, "Okay, big man, I'll let you live." Then the stranger took the bag of money, threw in the broken handle of the knife, and retrieved keys from Grover's pocket before disappearing into the late evening. No one else outside the Below grocery store was yet aware of the horrors that had just occurred behind its walls.
What's wrong? We're being shot. We're shot at.
June 6, 1993.
5 more have been either shot or stabbed.
After having all the victims bound in duct tape and tied up in dog chains,
the investigators hope to find this killer.
Two on top of each other, and his intentions were to shoot through the stack, save ammo.
But he didn't save ammo. Instead, detectives believe he fired until he ran out. That's when they say the man went to the kitchen and grabbed a butcher knife, slashing one of the victim's throats and stabbing him so hard the knife broke off in his back.
Back inside, Tony Welch, who was badly injured from a bullet that hit him through another person, was able to free himself from the duct tape. The massive amount of blood caused the adhesion surface to give up its grip. Despite the horrible pain he was in, Tony then crawled to the phone and dialed 911. Once Windsor police gained entry to the Below store, the scene was surreal. As Chief Police Freddie Bowen said, "Everything was deadly quiet. There was nothing in the store other than the hum of the cooler compressors in the background. But at the same time, they saw gravely injured Tony lying in the floor, and a trail of blood behind him. As the officers followed the trail, they discovered the extent of what had happened. Grover Cecil and Joyce Reason had both been shot in the head. Johnny Rankins, his back. All were dead. Tony Welch and Thomas Hardy were still alive, but needed immediate medical attention and were transported to the Pitt Memorial Hospital in Greenville. Both eventually recovered from their injuries. Somehow, Jasper Hardy was able to walk away from the unimaginable situation with no physical injury. From the crime scene, the police recovered cartridge casings and fingerprints that did not match any of the victims. Also, it did seem like the attacker had cut himself as he ferociously attacked Thomas, and for that reason, the investigators were able to recover DNA. However, neither the fingerprints nor the DNA yielded any matches. Next, the police began looking for an answer to the obvious question. Why did the stranger attempt to kill 6 people when they were all bound, and he had the money? And if the reason really was that the hostages could identify him to the police, why leave one person unharmed? Meanwhile, a white sedan with Maryland plates was spotted by a couple of people, both speeding out of town and turning at a high rate of speed onto the highway. Both witnesses reported the erratic driver to the police, saying there were 2 men in the car. Was one of them the stranger who attacked the Below store and another his getaway driver? Unfortunately, the vehicle has never been located. The police had to wait for the surviving victims to get stabilized before they could interview them. Meanwhile, law enforcement agencies from multiple states went through their records and provided lists of recently fired officers. After all, the attacker had claimed he was a former police officer. However, the list did not produce any potential suspects. As the words of the horrible crime spread across Windsor, its residents were left in disbelief. Things like this just did not happen in their close-knit and safe community. It was not a big surprise that in the months following the attack, around 130 people signed up for firearms classes with Bertie County Sheriff's Department. Everybody was scared. and investigators not being able to make progress in the case definitely did not help the situation. The survivors later described the Below grocery store shooter as a 30 to 35-year-old black male with light brown slanted eyes, a narrow nose bridge, a medium complexion, and a slender build, around 6 foot to 6'2", and weighing 175 to 200 pounds, with a military-style haircut. Still, while the police received numerous tips regarding the case, months and years have passed without positive identification of the killer. Interestingly, in 2015, Bertie County Sheriff Wallace Perry has said one of the surviving victims had given a different description of the suspect. According to the new description, the suspect was older and had different facial features. But other than that, there's not been any new breaks in the case. To this day, nobody knows what was the killer's true motive that evening, almost 30 years ago. Did he really attempt to kill 6 people for $3,000? Or was his original plan disturbed by the presence of the cleaning crew? And if he went to the store just to rob it, why did he not wear a mask? When the killer entered the store, he had had enough bullets to take care of the 2 employees. But because of the cleaning crew, he needed to improvise. Also, according to survivors, the shooter acted patiently and talked calmly until he viciously attacked Thomas. In the end, the killer was extremely sloppy, leaving survivors, not concealing his identity, and most likely cutting himself as DNA was recovered from the scene. Many things just don't add up here, but of course, it is always possible this person's behavior did not make any sense because of his disturbed mind. Some have suggested that the Below shooter was actually a serial killer with the sole purpose to murder. The money was just a bonus. Maybe he was also responsible for Andre Leggett's death in Bear Grass just a week before the killings in Windsor. Unfortunately, we still do not know who this mystery man is and why he did what he did. Perhaps he is still out there. Maybe he's dead. Nevertheless, the families will not rest until the truth is found out what really happened in the Below grocery store all those years ago. The case remains open, with law enforcement hoping that one day they will be able to solve it. Like many in the small town of Windsor, Chief Todd Lane and his officers travel past the former Below Market location every day. He says, when looking over there, you can't help but think about the need for closure for the families who lost loved ones in this case. A reward of $30,000 remains on the books for information that leads to the arrest and conviction of the killer. This has been an episode of Why So Cold. For the source material used in this episode, visit whysocold.com.